It's time for another comic book retrospective. Today we're going to be talking all about The Flash versus Captain Cold, one of his arch nemesis. And then we've also got the comic book retrospective crew. First up, we have the award-winning comic book editor, writer, Joe Corallo. How you doing, Joseph?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Next, we have the voice of the voiceless, the man so cool they call him the Breen. You said you wanted to be, are you the digital whore? No, the comic book hoarder. Eric Breen, how you doing?
I'm whatever you say I am. It's your show.
He refuses to go digital. Absolutely. Whatever you need me to be. This is fantastic stuff. We're in for a treat here. We got 4 different comic books spanning essentially 6 different years. We're going to get the introduction of the character in Showcase number 8. We're also going to hit the Flash 114, the Flash 134, and the Flash 140. There's one thing that these comic books have in common, Eric Breen, and that is Carmine Infantino, certainly one of the artists, really the original artist that's so well known and established with the character. He really gets the Flash. You can see why they kept him on the book for so long.
They kept him on for so long that years after he was fired from his position at EIC, he came back to DC to draw the Flash again for another handful of years, although he never set foot in the DC offices during that entire time.
Very nice. What makes Carmine Infantino such a great Flash artist? Is it just the line work? Is it the way he lays out the stories? Does he just get the character's power and make it look great?
It's a little bit of all that. He certain artists it's almost like they were born to do certain characters. If you're looking at Carmine Infantino, you're going to think of the Flash. Yeah, even though he did a lot of Batman stories, I think he will always be associated with the Flash. He just gave him a look. The stories just had a feel to them if he drew them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic stuff. And Joe, a lot of times we'll talk about one aspect that's holding a character back from maybe getting over to that, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man level. And a lot of times it's a rogues gallery. The Flash is not one of those characters. I think that's why he's kind of, when you look at the DC pecking order, he's really right there behind the Trinity as far as popularity and importance, because he has such a great rogues gallery. And Captain Cold's just one of those villains that really makes sense. The Flash's power obviously is super speed. If he can freeze him, he can slow him down a little bit. It makes him a natural adversary.
Yeah. And
the character design is so odd. You expect like a super villain to have the like a weird contraption. He's just got like a big coat on. I love it.
Yeah, it's big coat and a gun.
Some great glasses.
Oh yeah, it's great. And a lot of with Carmine too is he got to work with great inkers, because the inking really sells it a lot here. Like I'll show this one page here, this flat, from the Flash, the coldest man on earth there. And as you look at the inking and all the shadow that goes into the villain, whereas the inking's pretty light and tight on the Flash, things like that. It really makes it stand out. That there is an art to inking that we've all talked about before, how lost it's become, but these stories really lean into all of that. The layouts are fairly simple but very effective. Like he definitely is a big reason why we got a Silver Age. The Flash and Green Lantern. It's artists like Carmine Infantino and Gil Kane that helped usher this in, because this is the start of this. Is before Marvel Comics is even a thing as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
And even by the last issue we're going to cover, 140, it's still 1963. X-Men and Avengers have barely started. The output of Marvel at that time is about half of DC's output. I think we're so far from that time. I think it's easy to forget that even when it comes like 1963, and Fantastic Four is fairly established by then, and Spider-Man is really like maybe 6 issues in at this point. Like things are moving along. Distribution for Marvel Comics couldn't compete with DC at the time. You could talk to people who were buying comics at that time. There were people who were dropping Marvel Comics not because they wanted to, but because the distribution.
I should mention that DC, their deal was with National Periodicals, so they were pretty much at their mercy for those early years.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they didn't do them any favors as far as like if a delivery didn't quite make it to a specific hub.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So all of that stuff's interesting to keep in mind. It's a real interesting time. It's weird, I think, for some people thinking about, some of these villains, like Captain Cold and all of them, all predating, the villains that, Stan and Jack and Ditko and Don Heck and all of them would come up with in the years after, Showcase number 8, where we get Captain Cold.
Absolutely. So Showcase, essentially was it just Flash back in the day, Breen, or was Showcase just like an anthology?
No, Showcase, I believe the first issue was Firemen and then Frogmen. And it wasn't until issue 4 that they tried to revive a Golden Age superhero with a new twist, like a new person. The name was the same. Everything else was different. And I'm guessing, and then I think this might have been the second Flash was Showcase number 8, because I think there was a couple things in between. Yeah, because I said it was literally just an anthology book, but then not long after that, when the sales figures came back, they said, okay, we have something here. So you got a couple Lois Lanes, then the Flashes, and then like I think Adam Strange, Tommy Tomorrow. So I mean, they started taking more chances with sci-fi superheroes, and then by the early 20s, you had Green Lantern, and then they were off to the races.
Very interesting stuff. Well, you guys ready to talk about a fantastic villain that stood the test of time and still a thorn in whoever the Flash is, whether it's Wally West, Barry Allen, Bart Allen? Captain Cold is still a nemesis to this day. You guys ready to do this?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's hit Showcase number 8. And as Breen mentioned, this is an anthology. This is one of the short stories in there. It's called The Coldest Man on Earth, June 1957. Robert Koeniger, Carmine Infantino, and this is the debut of Captain Cold. And we see one day, Breen, that Len Snart is down on his luck, and he reads a newspaper story theorizing that a cyclotron could possibly stop the Flash, the world's fastest man. And he breaks into a science lab and uses the cyclotron as a weapon of his own devising, and he ends up accidentally creating a freeze weapon that leads to the birth of Captain Cold himself. Invigorating origin story, and it's done in only a few pages. This would take a year or two to do nowadays.
And you have to give Leonard Snart the foresight to anticipate coming up against the Flash, who'd probably only had 1 or 2 public outings by then. So he factored that in to when he came up with his gun, which he didn't think worked until he was confronted by a policeman, and he just brandished the weapon at him to hopefully scare him off, but it discharged and froze him. He said, "Hey, I got something here."
That's how you do a very well orchestrated villain origin.
One other thing. I love the panel where he's trying to come up with his name.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got, I said, Mr. Arctic, the Cold Wave, Sub-Zero, Human Icicle. See, his persistence paid off. He gets to Captain Cold.
If he was in the WWE, he'd be Ice Dagger or Fang McFrost. Wasn't that what they wanted to call Stone Cold?
Or he'd be Dumpster Drosy or
something stupid.
Yeah, and then he would later go on to lose his, lawsuit of Mortal Kombat. So
that's not cool.
Yeah.
We all love Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
So we see that Snart he plans to use his cold gun, and it's also its other ability to create mirages against the Flash to defeat the world's fastest man. And then finally, we do finally see the confrontation, Joe. And against the Flash, Captain Cold's weapon works and disorients the Flash. But the Flash, being a very smart man that knows his powers, this is his first outing with the cold gun, really. He figures out the truth behind the powers, and he's able to stop him by spinning him around at super speed before turning him over to the police. So he had a great idea, but he didn't come home a champ, at least the first encounter there, Joe.
No, he didn't. But I do wish, Carmine was still with us today so we could ask him, Carmine or Bob Kanigher, again, if he was still with us, exactly what kind of drugs they were on when, Leonard Snart here is just like, cold causes hallucinations. I'm going to make a bunch of staircases converge on Flash at the same time. It's a little like
me out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, like how when you're too cold and you start hallucinating and all those staircases come at you. Like
horses
that.
In there too.
Yeah, those are a little less weird. The staircases is just like, what?
Don't mock science, Mr. Corallo.
Yeah, questioning the science, Joe.
Really what I'm saying here is, Grant Morrison gets a lot of credit for coming up with really bizarre things in like Animal Man and Doom Patrol and some of their earlier work, obviously the Invisibles, but I never saw in a Grant Morrison comic the Flash get inundated with about 10 different staircases.
See, I thought you were going to go with the bizarre looking animals.
Yeah.
And that is explainable because at the time, most of DC's books were things like Strange Adventures, where there would always be these weird sci-fi stories where they go to planets where the animals are like ours, only different. And so this was kind of hedging their bets. It was giving fans that were used to that a little taste of it in case they were like flipping through it at the newsstand.
Yeah,
those bizarre animals might get little Johnny to say, "Mommy, give me a dime."
Yeah,
perhaps somebody that was on the creative team was scared of heights and thought, stairs. Damn, I'd be scared as hell if I was converged on by stairs.
It is, and again, I'm going to show it again because, like, I've never seen any other time that amount of dread. Like Flash is like really imperiled in that situation. It's a lot. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Legion of Superheroes were dealing with, flying dinosaurs with buzzsaws on their heads and things like that. So yeah, no, that makes sense. Not here yet, because I think it was another year before the Legion, maybe not quite a year before the Legion was created at this point, but still.
So let's get over to the Flash 114. This one's called The Big Freeze, August of 1960. And this is John Broome, Carmine Infantino. And we see on a road trip Breen to the state prison, Iris tells Barry that it is a rival reporter that's writing a series of stories on Captain Cold. And Barry remembers the previous encounter, which obviously he won. He's in prison. And then we see that Cold has petitioned for an early release and that Iris herself ends up testifying against him, saying he should remain in prison. And, Barry is like, hey, I could talk to my friend the Flash. Maybe he could also testify against Cold and see if we can keep him in prison as well. And at the end of the hearing, we see that the court, they end up denying Snart his request for parole. So I'm kind of on Snart's bandwagon here. Why are these guys getting involved in his business? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Trying to keep him in prison?
Yeah. Well, this is also before, he was, the big deal Flash villain that we all know. So it's like a little extra petty,
Like he only did it once. So he put some stairs in front of you. You're scared of him?
Yeah.
You're the man alone.
Exactly.
So after that, we see a week later, Cold has built a miniature freeze machine out of a refrigerator parts and escapes from prison. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is not only good comic book stuff. That's just good storytelling, period.
Oh, yeah.
You can take a refrigerator and make a freeze machine out of it. And Barry learns of his escape, and he starts searching for him in the southwest of the United States based on a tip that Cold was there, Breen. And it turns out he's been tricked just to keep him out of Central City. I love this part even more, Breen. Captain Cold arrives at the home of Iris West and proposes to her. Does he know that she's trying to keep him in prison? I do not know. She rejects him, and then he freezes the entire city and demands she reconsider his offer of getting married. This is good stuff.
Before we get into that, who is the bigger idiot? The prison for putting Len Snart to work, where he would have the wherewithal to put together a tiny refrigerator to use in his escape, or Iris, Lane, Lois, West not being able to figure out that Barry and Flash are the same person. I'm just posing that.
Flash has a mask.
They ride in the same car together. They're riding so they shouldn't recognize the jawline, or I'm assuming he might change his voice. So I'm just saying, maybe
I think it's leaving Snart with anything where he could make something cold. He literally made a weapon already. You get to give him a mini fridge and see what happens. That sounds dangerous.
Not to get ahead of ourselves, but this isn't the first time we're going to see that, or the last time. I mean, so what? If you want to get a girl to marry you, by all means, threaten to kill everybody else in the city.
Some weird Pepe Le Pew trying to get fresh stuff here. This isn't going to work.
If they took these 4 issues and made a trade out of it, they'd call it the lives and loves of Leonard Snart. And Iris just happens to be it's her turn in the rotation. So he's for some inexplicable reason why he chose her out of everybody else, because I don't know how famous she was, unlike the two we'll be discussing later. But she either marries him or he doesn't release everybody from their frozen state.
Man, that stuff looks good. That's really good art, man.
Oh, yeah.
And then we see the Flash realizes when he's in the Southwest, he's been duped. He's been hoodwinked. He's been bamboozled. He immediately returns to Central City, and he confronts Captain Cold, and the two men begin fighting Joe. And Cold's ice mirages and traps prove to be quite daunting for the Flash, but ultimately he does prevail because he is the Flash. And after the city returns to normal, the Flash sends Leonard back to the authorities, and later, I guess they wanted to get a little extra rib on Breen here. Iris relates the incredible story to Barry, who doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, Joe, because he's acting the part. He had no idea.
Oh yeah, but no, again, this is all incredible artwork here. Just all of the the city frozen, how it's all depicted, and again, like we've said before, this would be probably a year-long crossover event of Captain Cold freezing an entire city.
Captain Cold saga.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I do have a question for the two of you.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk haberdashery for a moment. Pub hat or pork pie? What you got? Because Barry, he's wearing both in this issue.
Go with pub hat.
Joe?
It's tough. I mean, he looks good in both. Let's be real here. But maybe the pork pie hat.
I got to go with that too, because there's a guy, Joe Jackson, his second album cover. He's wearing one on the cover, and he was a young man.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody younger than a grandpa wearing the pub hat.
I was going to say, I've never seen a young man wear a hat like that.
Unless you are like a Conor McGregor type fighter, and nobody's going to say anything about you wearing a.
Yeah. Really does. That will bring us over to Flash 134, the man who mastered Absolute Zero from February of 1963. John Broome once again with Carmine Infantino. And we see at Central City University, scientists are working on a new mechanical brain, but it only provides wrong answers. Flash and the elongated man arrive on the scene. I love it whenever we get to this era of comic books when they start trying to make stories about computers, because they do not know what's going on, or at least the future of computers. And we see that Flash, he ends up trying to use his super speed to follow the electrical current in the computer to determine if there are any faults. But he comes up empty-handed here, Breen. And while leaving the university, they're kind of upset that they didn't solve this. The two heroes hear a newspaper boy barking about a massive prison break, and they learn that a tremor has caused a wall at the prison to collapse, allowing a number of criminals to escape, which they very quickly go and round up. They get all the crooks, they talk to the warden, and they learn, of course, they don't have Captain Cold. Snart's still out there, Breen. What the hell?
And what they also don't know is that he caused the quake.
Well, that's the big reveal.
That's on
this
page
is like a page turn. This is like a page turn, Breen. My goodness.
The real reveal is it's out with the old and in with the new. No more Iris West, in with Miss Twist. Because, like I said, this is, at its core, Captain Cold is a story about a man looking for love in all the wrong places.
It's true.
He's a romantic.
He certainly is.
Eccentric romantic at that.
Cold-hearted, but still, that's...
Absolutely. And we see the crime-fighting duo of Flash and Elongated Man go to the prison, and they suspect that this earthquake was due to Captain Cold's cold powers, Joe. And then we see in his hideout, Captain Cold reveals it was his mastery of Absolute Zero that allowed for the tremor, that allowed for his escape. And then we see that Barry and Iris are on a date and learn that Snart's prison cell is, or Iris tells Barry while they're on the date that Snart's prison cell was wallpapered with the posters and photos of a fashion model named Miss Twist, who Breen has already talked about. And the date is interrupted when they learn Cold is robbing Central City Bank. Iris goes to cover it for the picture news, giving Barry the opportunity to change into his Flash costume and get in there. Flash arrives, but Cold is using his ice mirages and escapes. And we see Captain Cold runs into Elongated Man, Joe. This is the big twist here. Flash exits the bank and is shocked when Elongated Man himself stretches out and stops him instead of Captain Cold. What the hell is this? This is a heel turn for Elongated Man?
It's that's what you're supposed to think. Yeah. It's what is he doing? Why would he do such a thing?
What kind of hero does that?
And how can this somehow relate to a computer that's also getting things wrong? We'll find out after they deal with guy with ice gun that shoots ice in the air to create mirages of giant bugs.
Is anybody going to ask how a man who can stretch can catch the fastest man alive, or we just...
Well, Flash wasn't trying to use his powers. He just assumed they were buddies, and he was like, what? You know what I mean? Although it seems like he would be able to get around him pretty easily, but we do see Breen.
He can vibrate through walls. I think he could probably vibrate out of Ralph's.
The only place he can't vibrate out of is our hearts.
Absolutely. We got the Elongated Man that doesn't know why he's stopping the Flash, Breen. Flash asks him, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. So Flash attempts to go after Captain Cold again, and once again, Elongated Man stops him. And then we see Cold tosses Elongated Man his cold gun to hold the Flash. He's obviously in cahoots here, and the Scarlet Speedster is forced to knock out his friend. Well, that wasn't very nice. If you're knocked out by the Flash, you'd probably be killed. But this is comic book, so he makes it. And this disorients the crook and turns him over to the police. So he solves the crime pretty easily there. And then we see later, Elongated Man is telling the Flash his mind kept giving him wrong answers. I don't know how he put these two together, Breen, but the Flash realizes Elongated Man and the computer's malfunctions are caused by the same source of radiation, defective vacuum tubes. They are replaced, and both the computer and the Elongated Man no longer give wrong answers. He solved two mysteries.
Well, sometimes just an innocent turn of a phrase can spur the memory of someone, because I said that's what Ralph did. He just said something innocently, and it was like, Eureka! That's
Vacuum
it.
tubes.
Yes. Now, Ralph had already revealed his identity to the world. That was mentioned in a footnote earlier in this story.
Yeah.
Why the mask?
No, and then before you know it, his wife would be brutally murdered.
Wow, that way to bring us all
Yeah,
down.
what do you
Joe.
like?
Well, good night, everybody. No reason
This
to
is a kids program, man.
remember to tag that over 18 when that option comes up.
Jeez. Wow. We're not covering that issue. We're not
Oh no, we're not
brutally murdering his wife.
We don't have to.
Brad Meltzer, by the way.
Yeah,
Brad Meltzer's done some bad stuff. He should have stuck to law.
Nice enough guy.
Yeah, I'm sure he's really
doesn't
nice
look
guy.
like he had that kind of murderous streak in him, but
yeah,
you can't judge a book by its cover.
No.
So we see we're going to end up. This is the last face off between the Scarlet Speedster and the Captain Cold. It's the Flash 140. The heat is on for Captain Cold, November 1963. John Broome, Carmine Infantino, and we see initially, Joe, that Iris is jealous Barry Allen is paying real close attention to this actress on the television named the Dream Girl. And Barry explains that the Flash told him an interesting story about the Dream Girl program. And Flash was asked to go to the Willems and Cole law firm, where senior partner Henry Willems asks Flash to search for the long-lost daughter of the recently deceased Wilson Varner. And because she's supposed to receive $2 million in inheritance, and then the Central City was receive another $10 million. And the only clue is an old photograph with a weird birthmark on her neck. I don't know how this is all connected, but it's going to be. Iris is unimpressed, but accepts Barry's story, turns the TV back on, and they get the news about Captain Cold once again escaping from prison. And then so they end their date, and the Flash searches for Cold. And meanwhile, Cold recounts how he escaped from the prison after becoming obsessed with the Dream Girl himself, and he's determined to continue his life of crime and to win the heart of the Dream Girl. Joe?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a relatable story. We've all been there. How many times have we been caught, staring at some girl's neck, and we use the old, I was looking for a birthmark to find in Eris and save the city excuse. We've all been there. But no, it's the fact that the Sultan of Speed himself was able to come up with that so quick is pretty impressive.
Look, she can't tell that that's Barry Allen under that mask. She was going to buy this.
Maybe she's just pretending for his sake, When he wants to tell me, he'll tell me, but I know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Try.
Well, I don't want to talk about more characters that get murdered, but yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Jeez, Joe. We're going to have a murder special? We've got 5 wonderful murders of 5 characters you love. We're going to talk about them here today.
Joe's favorite story. Everyone dies in the end.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a lot like life, really.
My goodness. So while they're out, there's a robbery going on. While they're doing this, Flash shows up. He stops Captain Cold until another costume criminal arrives named Heatwave Breen, and he attacks the Flash. Captain Cold is able to escape the scene with his stolen loot. And then at Captain Cold's hideout, he learns that Heatwave used to be a fire eater. And he's turned to a life of crime, and he wants to work with Captain Cold himself. I like the yin and yang. We got opposites here. Cold agrees to take him on as a partner in crime, and the partnership is immediately strained, Breen, as Heatwave admits that he too is seeking to win over the heart of the Dream Girl as well. So we've got to love. Is that a square? I don't know.
Dream Girl's no square.
Well, I do have to point out, I think this is the first time in comic book history that a superhero was defeated by someone in a onesie.
Is it a onesie? He doesn't have like the leggings, right? His feet aren't in it.
It sure looks like it's close enough.
You don't think he has his own boots?
Yeah,
I've been defeated by someone in a onesie. My 8-month-old kicks me in the nuts all the time.
I'm guessing you
down
threw
for
the
the
fight.
But yeah,
what is it about Dream Girl? Like, what does she do with all these villains, making them soft?
Not to be confused with Legionnaire Dream Girl, also known as Nora Nall. This is a different character.
You know, it's that it factor. No one knows what it is. Clara Bow had it in the 20s. Gary Cooper was crazy for her. We don't know, but she had it, and that's why Captain Cold and Heatwave and Barry Allen watching TV. I don't care what
I'll be honest.
excuse he gave Iris.
If Barry doesn't interfere with this and he lets Heatwave and Captain Cold fight to the death over Dream Girl, she probably rehabilitates whoever wins, in her heart in the end. And they turn, they're probably good.
They're going to be too busy having arguments at like IKEA for them to get in trouble.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. This is going to rehab the character. So we do see said fight as the two crooks come to blows, and the fight leads right out into Central City, where the Flash attempts to stop them once again. The two villains use their unique weapons against the Flash, but the fastest man alive beats them in combat and turns them once again over to the police. He then goes to Dream Girl's home and learns that she is the daughter of Wilson Varner, and she hides her birthmark using makeup. That's why you can't see it on the small screen. And Flash rushes her to the law firm, and her identity is legally verified, and she is awarded her millions of inheritance. I guess it's a happy story in the end there, Joe.
I guess so. I feel like she's got to feel a bit conflicted, and also, not for nothing, sounds like Dream Girl probably didn't need that money anyway.
No, she's like every man in America was looking to, quarter.
Yeah, so yeah, it's she didn't really need that. It's funny because a lot of stories like this, usually when someone's like getting a lot of money, or it's some person who's at least like somewhat down on their luck. But no, it's like, I have millions.
Just when I thought things couldn't get better.
Yeah,
more money. Yes.
Like men are out in the street willing to murder each other for me, and I just got millions of dollars.
Yeah, I'm just starting my own hit TV show.
Yeah, it's just like, oh hey, she's she probably got more money than potentially her net worth at that point anyway. So who knows? But yeah, it's fun. It's good for the city, at least. The city got all that money to, help vaguely.
$10 million is a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's still a lot of money. So
well, hopefully they fix these roads and start getting rid of all the mirages of giant bugs all over the place.
Can you imagine what the roads would be like after he freezes the city? You got all the little water in there, and the next thing you know, you got potholes everywhere.
Oh yeah, no, the roads have to be awful with Captain Cold running around.
Yes.
Maybe use a little bit of that money to, call a dating service, so maybe Captain Cold can get, can find love on try number 4.
There you go.
I mean,
he seems like he's definitely on the search for love. Hopefully he finds it eventually at the end, but this is a lot of fun. I really do. I know a lot of people make fun of this era of DC comics, but I do like some silliness. I like that they can tell a story in one issue. In the case of the first origin story, it's they got the whole story in there, and it's one of 3, so it's even miniaturized in there. But it's so much fun. It's really the real treasure here. Not only is the relationship between Cold and Flash, which is still with us to this day, but it is that Carmine Infantino art. Like, my goodness, talk about being ahead of your time.
These stories are fun. Now you realize that, at the end of the day, he wins a lot of his fights really, really easily. because there's like a couple, that builds up to the story when they actually do fight. It's usually over in a couple panels.
Very true.
So that's not something that, we always bang on new comics when they say the characters don't have to struggle to win. That you can point to these and go, oh, well, they did it that way too, but that's neither here nor there. But a little side thing. I'm guessing that John Broome was a fan of a movie called The Long Hot Summer from 1959. It was starred Orson Welles as a man who basically owned a town, and had Paul Newman and Lee Remick and I think Joanne Woodward, but Orson Welles' name in the story in the movie was Will Varner.
My goodness. Where do you come up with this stuff, Breen?
I've been around, son.
Shouldn't you have forgotten this by now?
Well, I've
60
forgotten.
years.
I've forgotten more than you'll know, Sonny. Just not that.
No, that's why people come here, honestly, to the comic book retrospective. All these wonderful gold nuggets that only the comic book hoarder himself, Eric Breen, could give us. So, I don't know. What do you think, Breen? These are just such wonderful gems. Like this old school Flash stuff is just really worth getting out there. Is there a collection you think people should be going out there? Obviously, getting the singles is probably going to be difficult.
Well, Joe and I can both show you different things. I mean, I've got the trade paper, the trade volumes of the Flash Silver Age.
Those look so good too. That's really good trade.
Yeah, each two of these comprise an omnibus that I believe Joe's about to show us.
Yeah, and then I'm just gonna put the dust jacket back on it. But yeah, the omnibuses, they're still all in print. They're a nice hefty size. There's 3 omnibuses get you through pretty much the whole Silver Age. I think it gets you up to issue like 199 or 195 in that area. But
and in DC's Infinite Wisdom, they stopped publishing these after volume 4. So the third omnibus, that is the only way you can get those stories right now.
Yeah, but they might go back and do that. The collected editions have been more out of whack than usual the past couple of years. I'm sure they use the excuse of COVID, paper shortages, all that kind of stuff. But they're still coming back in. There's been some stuff that's been delayed about a month, but it's actually coming out. Like the Batman No Man's Land omnibus is finally out. I ordered that. It's on its way. The Absolute Jack Kirby's Fourth World Volume 2, which finishes up all of it in Absolute format's out this week as of recording this. So recording this January 17th. So there's a lot of exciting stuff. And it's weird. They do the Golden Age omnibuses, and they're not quite finished with some of them when they're starting the Silver Age ones, because the Wonder Woman Silver Age omnibus volume 1's out now, but they didn't finish doing the Golden Age run yet. Stuff like that.
There still hasn't been any sequential Batman or Superman Silver Age collections. It's all individual creators, but I mean, there's all those years to cover, and they've done the Golden Age stuff 2 or 3 times. They had the Batman Chronicles, then these, and I'm sure there's been something else too. It's like it makes no sense that some of the things that they just I think there would still be interest in.
I don't know when they're going to do that with Superman, but they did finally announce this summer Batman the Silver Age Omnibus Volume 1, which is going to contain Batman issues 101 to 116 and Detective Comics 233 to 257.
That's a start.
Yeah, so we're finally starting to get there with some of this. I'm excited to pick that up. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah, be great.
Yeah.
So this is a fun broadcast. I don't think we've determined what we're going to do next week. Was it Amazing Spider-Man?
Well, we were thinking the Louis Simonson, Walt Simonson X Factor.
All right. So if you want to be ready for next week, read up on some of the Simonson's X Factor work, and we'll see you then. I had a lot of fun. You have anything left to say, Breen?
Nah, like I said these are fun to go back and revisit. I mean, they're not to be taken seriously, but you can you can make a night of just opening up one of these and just because all the stories have the same kind of feel. They all reset at the at the beginning of the next one, but they will reference the stories that came before, which is kind of nice. I mean, it's they're fun.
Yeah, Barry tends to be late places, which is funny because he's the Flash.
So fast.
Oh my God, I just figured that out.